In October 2020, a gardener from the Cotswolds watched a Paddy Power slot game flash a monster jackpot worth £1,097,132.71 across her iPad screen. Hours later, one of Britain's biggest betting companies called it a display error and paid her just £20,265.14. But Corrine Durber had already done something the company never counted on. She had taken a screenshot. That single image would become the foundation of a 5-year high court fight Paddy Power never saw coming. October 18th, 2020, Tetbury, Gloucestershire. Corrine Durber, a local gardener known for tending historic Cotswold rose beds, was on her iPad waiting for a client appointment. To pass the time, she opened the Paddy Power mobile app and loaded The Wild Hatter, a digital slot game developed by Red Tiger Gaming. The game runs on a simple 2-stage system. Stage 1 is a classic fruit machine reel spin. If the symbols align, the player advances to Stage 2, a spinning bonus wheel of fortune divided into different jackpot prize tiers. Durber tapped her screen. The reels whirled and aligned, instantly triggering the jackpot round. On her iPad, the vibrant bonus wheel appeared and began to spin. It bypassed the smaller daily tiers and clicked to a stop on the ultimate prize, the monster jackpot. The screen lit up with a congratulations banner, displaying an astronomical figure, £1,097,132.71. Before the shock even fully registered, Durber instinctively pressed the buttons on the side of her iPad, capturing a single screenshot of the winning display. It was a split-second, unplanned reflex to preserve a life-altering moment. She had no idea this single image was about to expose a hidden software glitch, or that within hours, Paddy Power would attempt to wipe the £1,000,000 jackpot from her account entirely. The realization hit when Corrine Durber logged back into her Paddy Power account hours later. The 7-figure balance she expected to see was entirely absent. Instead, her screen displayed a balance of £20,265.14. The betting operator had credited her account with the lower-tier daily jackpot, flatly refusing to recognize the monster jackpot she had watched click to a stop on her iPad. Paddy Power claimed the £1,000,000 display was a system error, a visual glitch that meant nothing. They expected a quick resolution, treating the discrepancy as a routine support ticket. But the difference between what Durber saw and what she received was a staggering £1,076,867.57. Durber refused to accept the lower payout or quietly move on. Armed with the split-second screenshot on her iPad, she began pressing customer service for a real explanation, rejecting the standard corporate brush-offs. Low-level support staff offered automated responses, but Durber kept pushing, demanding to know how a game could explicitly promise a £1,000,000 fortune only to snatch it away behind the scenes. This was no longer a minor technical complaint. It was a battle over who actually controls the outcome of a digital spin. And the operator's explanation was about to trigger an unprecedented fight over the secret mechanics of online gambling itself. To explain the discrepancy, the betting giant pointed to the separation between a server in the cloud and the glass screen of an iPad. When a player taps the spin button, a secure random number generator, called an RNG, instantly produces a mathematical seed. This happens in milliseconds, locking in the final result before any graphics load. In this instance, the RNG selected a numeric seed that matched the lower daily jackpot tier of £20,000. The discrepancy arose during the mapping process. To turn a raw number into a visual game, the software relies on a local mapping file that pairs specific numeric seeds with corresponding visual assets. But a coding mismatch in the system's files misaligned these instructions. When the server transmitted the command for the lower tier, the flawed mapping file instructed the iPad to play the wrong animation, the £1,000,000 monster jackpot wheel. Paddy Power argued that the spinning wheel was merely a cosmetic wrapper, a visual layer designed to entertain rather than define the contract. To them, the back-end server log was the absolute truth. The £1,000,000 display was simply a rendering bug. The exact same software mismatch had already occurred 14 times over a 48-day period. But this defense raised a far more volatile question. If the visual outcome displayed to a consumer holds no legal weight, then what is a player actually betting on? Paddy Power pointed to its standard user agreement, a dense 45-page document of terms and conditions that every player must accept before spinning a digital wheel. Buried within this digital rulebook sat clauses B1 and B2. These clauses explicitly stated that if a technical discrepancy occurred, the records on the company's back-end servers and the mathematical output of the random number generator would always be final. To the betting giant, the contract was clear. Players do not bet on the symbols they see on their screens. They bet on the silent calculations happening inside a server farm. Corrine Durber's legal team at Coyle White Devine saw a fundamentally different contract. They argued that the specific game rules displayed on the Wild Hatter interface, which promised players they would win the prize where the jackpot wheel stopped, held primary legal weight. This is where Durber's split-second screenshot transformed from a personal photo into a devastating piece of evidence. It was an unalterable, physical record of what the system actually presented to a human being before Paddy Power could alter the narrative with back-end database logs. The dispute was no longer about a line of bad code. It had escalated into a fundamental question of consumer trust. Can a multi-billion-pound corporation use hidden fine print to void its own visible promises? Neither side was willing to back down, and the battle was heading straight for the High Court. In early 2024, Corrine Durber filed a formal breach of contract lawsuit in the High Court of Justice, King's Bench Division. Her target was PPB Entertainment Limited, the corporate giant trading as Paddy Power and Betfair. The claim demanded the full £1,097,132 and 71 pence shown on her screen, rejecting the operator's attempt to pay the reduced daily rate. Durber's legal team argued a fundamental principle. A gambling operator cannot display a life-changing fortune to a consumer and then quietly pay a fraction of that figure based on back-end code. To her lawyers, what a player sees at the moment of victory is the contract. Paddy Power prepared a massive defense, asserting that its 45-page terms and conditions, specifically its system error clauses, shielded it from liability. The betting giant maintained that the math in its server farms overrode the graphics on a customer's tablet. The filing turned a technical dispute into an all-out war between an ordinary Cotswold gardener and a multi-billion-pound titan. A single spin on a mobile app was now locked in a high-stakes legal battle that would drag on for 5 years, threatening to redefine the rules for the entire global online betting industry. But as both sides prepared their arguments, the entire case rested on how a judge would interpret the legal weight of that single, split-second screenshot. In April 2021, the High Court of Justice in London delivered a ruling that sent shockwaves through the UK gambling sector. A player named Andrew Green had won £1.7 million on a game called Frankie Dettori Magic 7 Blackjack, only for the betting operator Betfred to withhold the money, blaming a software glitch. Like Paddy Power, Betfred pointed to its lengthy terms and conditions, claiming its technical exclusions protected it from paying out on system errors. But Mrs. Justice Foster rejected that defense. The court ruled that Betfred's terms were not transparent, fair, or adequately brought to the player's attention, meaning the operator had to pay the full £1.7 million. Now, Durber's legal team at Coyle White Devine possessed a direct legal roadmap. The similarities were undeniable. Another massive UK operator, another software error, and another attempt to hide behind standard exclusion clauses. For Paddy Power, this was no longer an isolated customer complaint. It was a terrifying threat to their entire business model. If a second High Court judge applied the Green precedent to Durber's case, it would establish a devastating pattern. Every betting platform in the country would be forced to rewrite their user agreements and potentially pay out millions for their own coding errors. The industry held its breath as London prepared for a legal rematch, with billions of pounds of liability hanging on whether history was about to repeat itself. The legal battle arrived in the High Court of Justice in London, where Mr. Justice Ritchie took the bench to untangle the dispute. Inside the courtroom, the technical arguments of server logs collided with the reality of consumer experience. Durber's legal representatives targeted the 45-page user agreement, arguing that clauses B1 and B2 were too complex and obscured for any ordinary player to find, let alone understand. They insisted that the on-screen display of the game established a clear, binding contract. In contrast, Paddy Power's defense team argued that the terms were standard industry practice, legally binding upon registration, and clear in their warning that technical errors voided any visual anomalies. Justice Ritchie focused directly on the digital interface of the Wild Hatter and how the rules were presented. On the evidence table lay the single screenshot from Durber's iPad, showing the vibrant wheel stopped on the monster jackpot alongside the figure of £1,097,132. It was a static, unyielding piece of proof that directly challenged the betting giant's defense. The court was forced to decide a fundamental question of digital commerce. Could a multi-billion-pound operator divide the visual outcome shown to a customer from the mathematical reality of its back-end servers? The legal framework of the entire online betting industry was hanging on the judge's determination of what actually constitutes a contract. On March 5, 2025, Mr. Justice Ritchie delivered his decision. He bypassed a full trial entirely, granting summary judgment in favor of Corrine Durber. The court flatly rejected Paddy Power's attempt to hide behind its 45-page user agreement. Justice Ritchie ruled that the exclusion clauses limiting liability for system errors were not properly incorporated into the contract. In his written judgment, he described the company's technical terms as unusual, onerous, and not adequately brought to the player's attention. He compared the online interface to a physical roulette wheel, where the visible landing place of the ball, not a silent database server, must dictate the payout. The court ordered Paddy Power's parent company to pay Durber the outstanding balance of £1,076,867.57 plus interest. The legal shield that online gambling giants had relied on for years to void visual glitches was shattered in a single afternoon. But while Durber prepared to receive her life-changing payout, the broader implications of the ruling began to ripple through corporate boardrooms. The High Court had officially established that what a consumer sees on their screen is a binding promise. Across the UK, multi-billion-pound betting operators faced an immediate crisis. Every user interface, game contract, and terms of service agreement was suddenly exposed to massive legal liability. Subscribe for more investigations into the battles between everyday consumers and corporate giants. The High Court's ruling in Durber versus PPB Entertainment established a definitive legal standard across the British gaming sector. What a consumer sees on their screen is the contract. Under this new precedent, online operators can no longer hide behind server calculations to override the explicit figures displayed on a player's device. If a mobile application tells a user they have won £1 million, the operator is legally bound to pay it, regardless of any back-end database errors or synchronization mismatches in the software. Legal analysts at firms like Wigan and CMS Law immediately framed the decision as a severe wake-up call. The industry is learning that terms and conditions must be transparently communicated to the public rather than buried deep inside 45-page digital agreements. In the wake of the judgment, major competitors including Bet365, William Hill, and Ladbrokes instantly began auditing their user interfaces and redrafting their exclusion clauses to shield themselves from similar million-pound liabilities. Yet, while multi-billion-pound operators scramble to secure their code, a far more unsettling question remains. This 5-year courtroom battle was only possible because one gardener took a single iPad screenshot before her screen could refresh. It leaves a haunting uncertainty over how many other ordinary players had life-changing fortunes quietly erased by corporate database errors, simply because they failed to capture the evidence before the display disappeared forever. Subscribe to follow more investigations into the secret battles between everyday citizens and massive corporations. Following the March 2025 judgment, Paddy Power issued a public statement expressing regret over the incident, confirming they would review the ruling rather than pursue an appeal. This decision left the High Court's order unchallenged. By July 2026, the final deadline set by the court, the multinational betting firm transferred the outstanding balance of £1,076,867.57, plus interest, directly to Corrine Durber. For the Gloucestershire gardener, the payment marked the end of a 5-year struggle that began with a single iPad screen in her kitchen. The resolution does more than secure one family's retirement. By reinforcing the legal standard established in the 2021 Betfred ruling, this case builds a firm pattern in English law. UK courts are increasingly rejecting the defense that digital fine print can override the explicit promises shown on a consumer's screen. Future players facing similar disputes now possess a direct legal pathway, meaning the next battle over an unpaid digital jackpot may not require a 5-year courtroom war to resolve. Yet, industry observers note a quiet, unresolved reality. For every player who captures an instant screenshot of a £1 million win, many others likely watch their screens refresh and their evidence vanish into a server log. While the precedent is now set, the true number of vanished jackpots remains hidden behind corporate databases. Subscribe for more investigations into consumer rights. Today, the terms of engagement have shifted. A single screenshot dismantled the industry's ultimate defense, proving that fine print cannot override what is displayed in plain sight. For millions of online players, a digital image is no longer just a receipt. It is a legal shield. The era of the untouchable back end is over. Subscribe for more investigations into corporate accountability.